The terse meeting concluded with a blunt announcement, a restructuring designed to boost shareholder profits. My role, they declared, was immediately redundant. My name is Samuel. For 14 years, I spearheaded the development of the Meridian division at Apex Apparel, transforming it from a fledgling operation into their most successful unit. This wasn't achieved through slick presentations or corporate jargon, but through unwavering reliability, steadfast commitment, and honest effort. I personally managed our key accounts, understanding their concerns, their families, their individual preferences. These relationships yielded annual contracts valued at $7.1 million. The newly appointed CEO, Ethan, had been with the company a mere 7 weeks. A Harvard Business School graduate, with a meticulously styled haircut and bespoke suits, he never once inquired about my client relationships. He never questioned our consistent 20% year-over-year growth, while other divisions stagnated. He never considered why Coastal Investments and Zenith Properties, our two largest clients, specifically requested my presence on quarterly calls. As security escorted me to my office to gather my belongings, I noticed that Amelia from Human Resources avoided my gaze. She'd been there for 16 years, exceeding my tenure. The CFO, Frederick, approached, then hesitated. "Samuel," he began, but trailed off, offering an awkward pat on my shoulder before hurrying away. I packed silently, surrounded by family photos, the fishing trophy presented by the Zenith Properties team after our company retreat, the handwritten note from Deborah at Coastal Investments, expressing gratitude for expediting her order during a critical moment for her employer. 14 years of dedication, condensed into a single cardboard box. I acknowledged security with a nod, departing calmly to my car, devoid of drama or animosity. In my rearview mirror, I watched the glass skyscraper diminish as I drove away. For the first time in 14 years, the burden of 30 employees and millions in contracts no longer weighed upon my shoulders. This should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt profoundly wrong. My journey with Apex began when the company operated from a modest warehouse in Atlanta. Initially, we struggled to secure corporate uniform contracts with regional banks and healthcare providers. The Meridian division was losing significant funds when I joined. I inherited a team of 8 employees and a directive to either revitalize the division or face its closure. During my initial 3 years, I personally visited every potential client within a 50-mile radius. I diligently identified their frustrations with existing suppliers, late deliveries, subpar quality, and inconsistent sizing, and systematically addressed each issue. My team expanded to 14, then 22 individuals. We secured more spacious offices. I promoted Jessica from customer service to account management, recognizing her exceptional skill in handling demanding clients. I hired Gregory straight out of design school after he impressed me with innovative mock-ups that resolved problems we hadn't even identified. My son David was 10 when I started at Apex. He's now 24, flourishing as an architect in Boston. My wife Patricia steadfastly supported my late nights, weekend emergencies, and countless trips to salvage accounts. "I'm building something enduring," I'd assure her. And she believed me. 3 CEOs came and went during my tenure, each valuing the foundation we'd established. The company transformed from a regional player into a national competitor, with my division consistently leading in growth and client retention. Last year's merger altered the landscape. The Falcon Group acquired us, installing its own leadership team. Initially, I remained unconcerned. Numbers speak volumes in business. But warning signs soon emerged: contract values, renewal dates, and potential growth opportunities. What I excluded, because it's impossible to quantify on a spreadsheet, was my attendance at the funeral of Coastal Investments' procurement director's father, and my personal inspection of Zenith's inaugural major order at 2 a.m. to ensure flawless execution for their company-wide launch. When Ethan's assistant scheduled our meeting for a mere 10 minutes, I understood. I'd witnessed this happen to others. I just never anticipated it happening to me. The morning after my dismissal, I sat in my home office staring at my phone. No messages from my former employer. Trisha brought me coffee and squeezed my shoulder. "What's on your mind?" she asked. "They don't understand what they've done," I replied. I wasn't angry. That was the most surprising aspect. I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I opened my personal laptop and reviewed my contacts, not the company database, but my own meticulously kept records of names, numbers, and personal emails. 14 years of authentic connections. 30 a.m. from Deborah at Coastal Investments. "Clayton, we just received a mass email announcing organizational changes at Apex. Please tell me you're unaffected." I took a deep breath. I was let go yesterday. The silence was deafening. "Who's taking over the accounts?" she finally asked. They didn't specify. I assume one of Ethan's new team members. Another pause. We have our contract renewal in 6 weeks. I know, Clayton. I need to be candid. The board only approved staying with Apex last time because of you. The pricing was higher than competitors. But you always delivered. You consistently resolved issues before they escalated. I remained silent, hearing her pen tapping against her desk in the background, a habit she exhibited when making difficult decisions. I need to consult with my team, she finally said. Can I call you back on this number? Of course. After the call, I went downstairs and joined Patricia at the kitchen table. Are you okay? She inquired. I nodded. I think I will be. My phone buzzed with a text from Gregory, my design lead at Apex. Ethan called an emergency meeting, inquiring about client contact information for your accounts. No one's providing straightforward answers. What's going on? I set the phone down without responding. Shock at my departure, apprehension about the future, and questions about their contracts. I was honest with each of them. I refrained from criticizing Apex or Ethan. I simply answered their questions directly. Yes, I had been terminated. No, I wasn't aware of the transition plan. Yes, I was exploring future opportunities. By evening, I had 5 missed calls from Ethan Kerr. I didn't return them. That night, I created my own spreadsheet, not of clients or contracts, but of possibilities. Companies that had attempted to recruit me over the years, competitors who might value my experience and network, even the prospect of starting my own consulting firm. For 14 years, I had built bridges for Apex Apparel. Now I had to decide whether to dismantle them or construct new ones for myself. I chose the latter. 3 days after my termination, Ethan's texts escalated into calls. I let them go to voicemail. On the 4th day, I finally answered. Samuel, we need to talk, he said. His voice strained compared to our last encounter. Concerns have arisen with several key accounts. I'm confident my team can manage, I replied. That's precisely the issue. Coastal Investments is threatening to terminate their contract. They claim they only collaborated with us because of you. I observed a cardinal land on the bird feeder outside my window. That's their prerogative. Look, perhaps we acted too hastily with these restructuring changes. The board is apprehensive about the potential revenue impact. We could discuss a consulting arrangement to facilitate the transition. For a moment, I considered it. A consulting job would provide easy income while I explored my next move. But something felt disingenuous about his sudden change of heart. I appreciate the offer, but I require time to consider. I'll reflect on it. That afternoon, I met Robert Miller for coffee. He'd been Apex's CFO before the merger, and had also been dismissed. He maintained contacts within the company. Ethan's in full panic mode, Robert said, stirring his coffee. Apparently, Coastal and Zenith both sent formal letters indicating they won't renew their contracts. Did they state their reasons? Loss of key relationship personnel, leadership instability, essentially corporate jargon for we only trusted Samuel. I nodded, experiencing a blend of validation and concern for my former team. There's more, Robert continued. Ethan informed the board that you're sabotaging the company, contacting clients and urging them to defect. I set down my cup. I haven't influenced anyone. I've responded honestly to their inquiries. That's not how Ethan's portraying it. He's constructing a case that you violated your termination agreement and might attempt to reclaim your severance. During my drive home, Ethan called again. This time I allowed it to go to voicemail. When I listened later, his tone had completely shifted. Samuel, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. We value everything you've built here. The board has authorized me to offer you a senior VP position. A better title, a more lucrative package than before. Call me back. We should discuss. Senior VP, equity stake, and complete control over your client relationships. I informed him that I needed several days to consider all my options. That night, I received an email from Apex's legal department, alleging that I was in violation of non-solicitation agreements. The language was threatening, implying legal action if I didn't cease interfering with company relationships. I forwarded it to a lawyer friend without comment. The next morning, I received my answer. My lawyer friend Paul Harrison called early. This legal threat is flimsy, he stated. They're attempting to intimidate you, but I've reviewed your contract. You never signed a non-solicitation agreement. The standard non-compete clause merely prevents you from joining a competitor for 6 months. It doesn't restrict clients from following you. I recalled signing that contract 14 years prior at a different stage in the company's history. The former CEO had been straightforward. This simply prevents you from leveraging our training and immediately working for the competition. Nothing about client relationships. So I've done nothing legally wrong. Not a thing. In fact, if they pursue this, we could countersue for wrongful termination. The abrupt nature of your dismissal, the lack of a transition plan for a senior leader. The courts view this unfavorably. You should know this. She attached an internal presentation from 2 weeks before my termination. Ethan had outlined a complete restructuring plan. This plan included eliminating my position regardless of performance, replacing experienced staff with less costly recent graduates, and raising prices for long-term clients by 15% upon contract renewal. A note on slide 12 read, relationship-dependent business model presents significant risk, need to transition to system-dependent model to maximize margins. They hadn't dismissed me because I was failing. They dismissed me because I was succeeding in a way that didn't align with their spreadsheet-driven vision. More unsettling was a list of team reduction targets. Gregory, Jessica, and 3 others from my division were marked for termination once I was gone. I printed the document and reviewed it at the kitchen table. Patricia read over my shoulder. They intended to dismantle everything you built, she whispered. And blame any negative consequences on me, I added. My phone buzzed, another text from Ethan. Board meeting tomorrow. Need to discuss reconciliation ASAP. Please call. I set the phone down and examined the presentation again. The final slide projected revenue after all changes. A 22% increase in margins, assuming all clients remained despite price increases and service reductions. It was a house of cards. I called David at Pinnacle Peak. I'm interested in your offer with one condition, I said. I want to bring my core team, 5 people total. Agreed, he replied without hesitation. When can you start? 2 weeks, and I'll need official offer letters for all of us today. That evening, I contacted Gregory, then Jessica, then the others. I explained everything, the termination, the restructuring plan, their names on the cut list. I shared Pinnacle Peak's offer. All 5 immediately accepted. I slept better that night than I had since my termination. I didn't return Ethan's calls or emails. Instead, I scheduled meetings with our top clients, not to steal them away, but to check in as a friend. I met Deborah from Coastal for lunch near her office. We're not renewing with Apex, she stated before ordering. The question is where we go next. I can't solicit your business at present, I explained. Legally, I need to exercise caution. She smiled. I understand, but hypothetically, if you were employed by a company offering similar services, we'd be highly interested in following you. By the end of the week, I'd had comparable conversations with all 5 major clients. None had received calls from Ethan or anyone else at Apex attempting to salvage the relationships. Meanwhile, Pinnacle Peak sent formal offer letters to my team. One by one, they submitted their resignations at Apex. The following Monday, Ethan appeared at my house unannounced. I was in the garage working on my old Ford pickup when he arrived in his Mercedes. We need to talk, Samuel, he said, his anxiety palpable. This has gone too far. The board is breathing down my neck. Key team members resigning, clients threatening to leave. Sounds challenging, I replied, wiping my hands on a rag. Unfortunately, I've accepted a position elsewhere. His face reddened. You're joining a competitor? That violates your non-compete agreement. Pinnacle Peak isn't on the restricted list in my contract. Paul Harrison confirmed it yesterday. You're consulting lawyers now. Samuel, be reasonable. Whatever they're offering, we'll exceed it. I closed the hood of my truck. It's not about the money, Ethan. It never was. Then what do you want? Name it. I looked at him directly for the first time. I wanted respect for 14 years of building something valuable. I wanted a conversation, not a 10-minute dismissal. I wanted my team protected, not targeted for elimination to satisfy a spreadsheet. Letting me depart quietly, or a public legal battle explaining why all your major clients and top talent left simultaneously. He had no answer. A week later, I began at Pinnacle Peak. 2 weeks after that, my non-compete period expired. Within a month, 4 of our 5 major clients from Apex had signed new contracts with Pinnacle Peak, specifically requesting me as their account manager. I never contacted anyone else at Apex. I never spoke negatively about the company publicly. I didn't have to. CEO Ethan Kerr steps down amid financial shortfall. The article detailed how Apex had missed quarterly projections by 8. The Meridian division, my former territory, had experienced a near 40% loss of business. The board had accepted Ethan's resignation, effective immediately. I handed back the tablet without comment. You don't seem surprised, David noted. Difficult to cultivate relationships using spreadsheets. I replied. That afternoon I received a LinkedIn message from Frederick, Apex's CFO. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss recovery strategies. Your name was mentioned. Would you consider a conversation? I didn't respond. Instead, I finalized our quarterly presentation for Coastal Investments. Our team had delivered their new corporate uniforms 2 weeks early. The feedback had been overwhelmingly positive. Deborah had already introduced us to 2 other potential clients in her network. The next day, Robert Miller called. Thought you'd want to know. Falcon Group is attempting to sell off Apex. The stock is down 22% since you left. Who's buying? That's the issue. No takers yet. Word is they're trying to reach out to you through back channels. The board believes you're the only one who can stabilize the client relationships. I thanked Robert for the information and returned to work. Later, I took my team out for lunch to celebrate our first 2 quarters of consecutive growth. Gregory presented sketches for a new product line. Jessica shared updates on client feedback. We discussed Pinnacle Peak's expansion plans. No one mentioned Apex. That evening, I received a direct email from Eleanor Carter, Apex's board chair. Samuel, the situation has become untenable. We made a serious error in judgment. Would you consider returning as CEO, complete autonomy, a significant equity stake, a board seat? Name your terms. I closed my laptop without responding. The next morning, I called a meeting with my team at Pinnacle Peak. I've been approached about returning to Apex, I stated plainly. I wanted you all to hear it from me first. I'm declining the offer. Gregory nodded. I figured they'd eventually try. Jessica smiled. Too little, too late. Exactly, I said. We're building something superior here. That afternoon, I sent a concise email to Eleanor. I appreciate the offer, but I must decline. I'm committed to my current position. I wish Apex the best going forward. Pinnacle Peak Outfitters had acquired Apex Apparel's Meridian division in a strategic asset purchase. The press release highlighted the move as reuniting key talent with established client relationships. David had negotiated the deal discreetly, paying a fraction of the value for what had once been Apex's most prized asset. The board had no choice. It was either sell to us or watch it collapse entirely. I never had to retaliate directly. The market did it for me. 1 year after my termination from Apex, I drove past their former Meridian division office. The Pinnacle Peak logo now hung where the Apex sign had once been. The building appeared unchanged, but everything inside had transformed. We'd rehired some of the staff who'd been let go during Ethan's brief tenure. We'd recovered 3 more client relationships that had deteriorated after my departure. The division now generated more revenue under Pinnacle Peak than it ever had under Apex. I parked across the street and observed employees leaving for the day, familiar faces mingling with new ones. They looked content, engaged, purposeful. When I got home, Patricia was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I drove by the old office today, I told her. She studied my expression. Nostalgia or closure? Closure, I think, I replied. Did you know it's been exactly 1 year? She nodded. I remembered. That's why I made your favorite tonight. Over dinner, David called from Boston to share news about a significant project his architecture firm had secured. How's the new job going, Dad? He asked. Good. Building something that will last, I replied. The same words I'd used for 14 years at Apex, but this time I knew it was true. Later that evening, I received a text from Robert Miller. Apex's remaining divisions were just acquired by the Orion Group. A clean sweep. Nothing left of the original company. I set down my phone and stepped onto the deck. The spring air was warm, filled with potential. I considered Ethan, briefly wondering about his current circumstances. I hoped he'd learn something, though I doubted it. I reflected on all those years building bridges for a company that didn't appreciate them. The late nights, missed family dinners, postponed vacations. The sacrifices had been real, but so were the relationships I'd forged. In the end, those relationships had followed me, not because I'd requested it, but because we'd built something genuine together. No spreadsheet could capture that value. No restructuring could erase it. The next morning, I arrived early at Pinnacle Peak. I reviewed our quarterly projections, 30% above target. I checked our client retention numbers, 97%, the highest in company history. David stopped by my office. The board approved your proposal, he said. The employee ownership program commences next quarter. Gregory and Jessica will lead the implementation team. I nodded. They'll execute it, flawlessly. You know, David said, leaning against the doorframe, When all this began, I thought we were simply acquiring a talented executive and some lucrative client relationships. I didn't realize we were gaining an entirely different approach to business. Relationships over transactions, I replied. Always. After he left, I opened my desk drawer and retrieved the fishing trophy Zenith Properties had given me years ago. I placed it on my shelf, next to new photos of my team at Pinnacle Peak. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need vindication. I simply needed to build something enduring. This time I had.